What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing our post-combine mock draft. Now, some things have changed. I will say not a super large amount of things have changed, but things have definitely changed. You have a lot of risers, a lot of people who have done great things like I expected them to, a lot of people who did not perform as well as I expected them to. Tez Johnson being a big one, but this is a one-round only mock draft, so we're not really going to be able to get into that until we do a 3-round mock draft, probably before the draft starts. But let's get right into it with the Tennessee Titans at 1, and it's becoming more clear to me that I think the Titans are going to trade out of this pick, likely with the Giants. So, I think they're going to end up taking Abdul Carter at 3. So we're just going to give him Abdul Carter here. And I do also think that once again that the Giants will trade up to 1, but we don't do trades in these mock drafts just yet. Abdul Carter, once again, as I said in the last video, just an extremely athletic, explosive edge rusher in his first year playing edge at Penn State. Just give you all the tools you wanted to see on paper and on film. However, recently there's been a development about a fracture in his foot, which allowed him to not participate in the combine, but he should be cleared for the start of the season, so I don't think this is really going to affect his draft stock that much. Actually, I really don't think it's going to affect it at all. Browns here at 2. I think the Browns are going to end up going with a quarterback. Last time I gave them Cam Ward, so we're going to go ahead and give them Shedeur Sanders here. Just to switch things up. I had a comment in my last video who talked about the mental toughness of Shedeur. But I also think what comes with this mental toughness is a little bit of arrogance. I don't know how coachable he really is. I mean, he's only had his dad for his coach his whole life, really. So when it comes to coaching, you don't really get a good sense of what you're getting with Shedeur. You don't get this. Maybe there's entitlement there because his dad was a coach, but Deion's always said that Shedeur's never been treated differently because he's his son. Is he just saying that because it's true, or is he saying that because he has been getting treated different? Everyone knows about the coach's son who gets the playing time because he's the coach's son. So I guess that's just how it is. Giants at 3 here. Personally, I think they're going to trade up for a quarterback, and I think that quarterback will end up being Cam Ward. Cam Ward had a great season this year. Great arm talent as well. Works great out of structure and will be a great pairing with Malik Neighbors for the Giants. Now, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are really trying to get their job going. They need to have a good year this year or they're both out. And they're either going to go for a veteran or a huge swing at quarterback, and that's what Cam Ward is. He is a huge swing that if he hits, he could end up being kind of like a Josh Allen-y player where he just does whatever he wants behind the line of scrimmage. But if he misses, he could easily end up being like a Deshaun Kaiser, where it's just like he's just nothing. Shout out to Deshaun Kaiser though. He was great in the year they went 0-16 for how bad that roster was. That wasn't meant any shade at all. That was just an example of an athletic, a talented quarterback who just didn't pan out in the league. There wasn't any high expectations on him or anything. I don't know why I'm ranting about Deshaun Kaiser right now, but no shade to Deshaun Kaiser at all. So we're going to have the Browns taking Cam Ward here at 3. Next up, the Patriots. So the Patriots, which I'm a fan of, go Pats, have a draft crush on Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter has been seen as the Patriots' cornerback 1 and wide receiver 1. Now, in terms of wide receiver, I compare him very similarly to Devonta Smith from the Eagles, who was one of the few Eagles players that I actually like. Devonta Smith also was a quarterback, and quarterback's best friend for Mac Jones at Alabama. Shout out Mac Jones. But Devonta Smith, man, great player. Travis Hunter, I do see the similarities. Great route runner, good with his hands, plays way above his weight class, just very physical. There's been a joke going around recently that Devonta Smith is more physical than DK Metcalf, and I honestly do think that's true. DK Metcalf is a good physical blocker, but are you ever really seeing DK Metcalf catch one-on-one balls? You're not. So I would love this pick as Patriots fan. I would love Travis Hunter. Hopefully he doesn't have to wait in the car too long to get selected in this draft. So 4 would be a good selection for him there. Next up, we have the Jaguars at 5, and I think Mason Graham would be a good pick here. You shore up the defensive line. Yeah, stud defensive lineman as well. Last time we went Ted McMillan, but if Mason Graham is here at 5, I mean, he's one of the 5. Like, the top 5 is pretty obvious in this class for me. But the quarterbacks are not in it. The quarterbacks are not in my top 5. I don't want you guys to think they are. They're not. My top 5 is Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Mason Graham, and Will Johnson. Those are my top 5 players in this draft. But Mason Graham being one of them, he's elite. He is an elite player. I would love for the Patriots to have him as well. Not talking about the Patriots, just talking about the Jaguars. He would fit in very nicely in between Travon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, who are just tremendous edges as well. A lot of people seem to overlook how good Travon Walker is simply because they passed on Aiden Hutchinson to get him, but I also think Travon Walker is an elite player, and I think the disrespect towards him is unwarranted just because of where he was taken. So yeah, Mason Graham is just such an elite prospect here. Really finally fills up the defensive line, and will not only give a boost to him on the defensive line, it will also boost Joshua Hines-Allen and Travon Walker. So I just think this is a perfect pick here. Raiders at 6. It's tough, you know. Last time I had them passing on Shedeur and Galoon with Ashton Genty. I do kind of want to shake some things up. So let's get a little crazy here and say the Raiders, they go with Jaxon Dart. Now, is this a little ridiculous? Yeah, this is ridiculous. Jaxon Dart is not that great. However, I do think someone out there is going to take a shot on Jaxon Dart in the first round. Why not? Why not the Raiders? We're just to have some fun. Jaxon Dart at number 6, the Raiders. The Jets at 7. They need some defensive back help. They need some interior defensive line. Just any defensive line, really. They have some good edge rushers like Jermaine Johnson, but he's coming off a season-ending injury, so who knows how long that will last. You also could point to tackle as a need for the Jets, but I'm going to give the Jets Will Johnson here. This will be an insanely deadly 1-2 punch with Sauce Gardner at the cornerback position. And there's really no quarterbacks available for them to even take. So, I mean, you could look for yourself. I'll show you. There's no way Jalen Milroe is going in the first round. 0. If Jalen Milroe goes in the first round, what would I do? I will jump off a 7-story building. It's just not happening. Jalen Milroe is not a first-round player. Will Howard, you could see his combine. It was not great. Save with Jalen Milroe for that. There's no quarterback except my GOAT, Tyler Show, who is even close to a first-round talent. Even Jaxon Dart isn't a first-round talent. Even potentially Shedeur and Cam Ward aren't first-round. That's a little extreme. They're probably first-round talents. But this quarterback class is so shallow. There's some good depth pieces. Like Jalen Milroe could be a great developmental guy. Will Howard, great backup. Dylan Gabriel, not so much. Quinn Ewers could be an okay backup. Kyle McCord could be a great backup. Tyler Show, potential starter. If you guys can't tell, I'm high on Tyler Show. But here, we're going to give the Jets some help at the cornerback position and select Will Johnson. Panthers here, they need some defensive line, but they also need some weapons for Bryce Young. And getting yourself a great number 1 option in Ted McMillan would just do yourself wonders when developing Bryce Young even more. He's got Adam Thielen, who's good. He's got, who's he starting to? Dan Moore? Is that his name? Was it Dan Moore? I feel like I'm saying who it is. You have Leggett, who's okay, but Ted McMillan here would just help Bryce Young get to that next level. Saints at 9, need some defensive line help, and there's really not that much available, except James Pierce Jr. There's just a lot of defensive. I don't know what I'm saying, but James Pierce Jr. had an amazing combine, ran quite fast while wearing a hoodie, which was pretty shocking to me. But James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, just an explosive edge threat. But there have been more reports, like I was saying last time, that have come out that he was the worst graded character-wise player that was interviewed at the Combine. Tennessee coaches apparently just wanted him to leave. They thought he was checking out of the season, just ready for the draft. But I don't know. You can't pass up on this talent. And there was character concerns about Kayvon Thibodeau that came out last year. Not last year, a couple years ago. That ended up, I think, started from the Giants, who ended up taking him. So it's there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. You gotta look at the talent, and James Pierce Jr. fits that bill. Next up for the Bears, they need some offensive line help. They also need a weapon. There's a lot of places you could go. Either that is Will Campbell, but for the first time, at least for me, I'm gonna mock to them Ashton Genty. Real carbon copy of, not really a carbon copy, but it's pretty much if you took David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and put it into one player. A little bit slower, but also a little bit stronger. Great fit in the Ben Johnson scheme, so we're going to have the Bears selecting Ashton Genty at 10. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, this is just a perfect place for Will Campbell. This is a crazy fall for him. That's just the way the draft has gone. But I think this is just a perfect place for him to go. Fill any hole in this offensive line, whether that's guard or tackle, as his combine measurements were just outstanding to watch. He one of the highest athletic scores ever given for an offensive tackle. Near 10, he ran under 5 at 300 pounds. I mean, that's just impressive. So Will Campbell is going 11 here to the San Francisco 49ers. And directly following that up, the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock with a need anywhere, but another athletic monster from the Combine is a player I'm really high on, and it's Ahmad Membao. Even before the Combine, I thought he's a top 10 talent. In my last mock draft, he ended up going, I believe, 31 to the Chiefs. But here I'm going to have Ahmad Membao just sliding in effortlessly at pick 12. Next up, the Miami Dolphins. They need a safety if Javon Holland leaves, but they also need some offensive line and interior and defensive line. Who a player that could slide into safety or corner is Jahdae Barron. Probably the most complete corner in this class. Even though Will Johnson I have ranked higher, Jahdae Brown's also a top 10 player for me. He's just an elite tackler, elite ball skills. Just the best thing about him, there's two things. Is he just effortlessly plays the run game, and he just shows so much effort in it. Not effortlessly plays it, but it looks like he's not even breaking a sweat. He plays so physical, and it just does it every play. He doesn't take a play off on run defense at all. And he's very handsy, but knows when to be handsy. So he's just so good at knocking that ball off out of your hands. He forces a lot of incompletions that way, and he plays the ball pretty well with 5 interceptions last year and interception in the college football playoffs. So Jahdae Brown, just a fantastic pick for the Dolphins. Hate to see him go there as a Patriots fan, which is a fantastic pick. Last time I had the Colts taking Tyler Warren, but I do want to switch it up, and we're giving them Mike Green out of Marshall. Just an elite edge rusher. Actually, wait, no. Sorry. There's another guy on the board here who is Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart had a fantastic combine. He's not had many sacks in his career. That's true. But he was just so elite physically and so gifted. There was questions about his productivity going into it, and they were like, well, how good of an athlete is he? And he shows he's the best athlete at defensive edge this draft. Even better than Abdul Carter when it comes to athleticism. Shamar Stewart could easily become like a Myles Garrett type player, but he also could become, I hate to say it, but like a Keon White, a guy who has the traits but just can't really put it together. Hopefully Keon White bounces back this year. But Shamar Stewart could be one of those two players, and if you have the chance to become Myles Garrett, you're going to get drafted. So Shamar Stewart is going to be selected here at pick 14. Followed up with the Falcons at pick 15. Here is where Mike Green goes. Another just great edge rusher, very talented. Has had some allegations off the field, but they're just allegations. I wonder if that will impact his draft stock at all. I'm sure it won't. And I'm sure that there was an investigation, and it's come out that not true. Apparently, he has also some personality problems. But it's the NFL. Guys want to compete. They're going to be a little aggressive. It's just how it is, unfortunately. So Mike Green is the pick here for the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals at 16. They're probably honestly just going to go best player available. And although that best player is probably Tyler Warren, Trey McBride is, in my opinion, one of the best tight ends in the league. Probably top 3 right now. Just very elite player. And they need some offensive line help. And this is where I haven't taken Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons got hurt halfway through the year. But once again, he is just that good. Actually, do they take Josh Simmons? I'm not really sure they take Josh Simmons. I think they might try to get some defensive linemen, and I'm going to have them go with Derek Harmon out of Oregon. My mistake, guys. Let's just redo this. 3, 2, 1. Now, the Cardinals are probably going to end up taking Derek Harmon out of Oregon. To me, Derek Harmon is one of the best defensive linemen in this class. This class is very rich at defensive linemen, but he's just a good guard who could, like an edge, not a guard, but like an A-gap guy who could take up a lot of space, but also rush the quarterback. He had 43 hurries this year, which is just ridiculous. 7 quarterback hits and 5 sacks. You just look at the tape and you just see a big guy, and it's also a good thing when your best game of the year goes against Ohio State. Because Ohio State had probably the best offensive line outside of Texas. Actually, they probably better than Texas. They had a lot of prospects who I thought were great. So we're going to give him Derek Harmon here. Just put him in the inside of the line. And then you have your draft pick last year coming back. Bengals here at 17. They just franchise tagged T. Higgins. So wide receiver is not going to be a need for them. So they do need some defenders. And Jahad Campbell is a great fit here. But another combine riser is Nick Amarwori out of South Carolina. I am very high on him, and he just was so athletic at the draft. Just draft combine. He could play slot corner. He could play box. He could play deep safety. Nick Amarwori is just everything this Bengal team needs, and I think he'll fit there perfectly. Seattle Seahawks at 18. This is another place where I think Jaxon Dart could go if he is not taken by the Raiders. But there's some players here that would fit the Seahawks very well. And I believe Jahad Campbell could be that. You get yourself an athletic linebacker who can play defensive line and linebacker. Kind of like an Isaiah Simmons type. Not Isaiah Simmons. Hassan Reddick is my comparison for him. He could play both. It depends on where he's going to end up falling in the NFL. But for a team with gaps at both positions, figuring out which one he works at best would be the best case scenario. Buccaneers at 19 are a little interesting. I think they're going to end up with Donovan Izuriaku at Boston College, who is a fantastic edge rusher. That's one of their options. Another couple of their options could be if they wanted to buff up their offensive line, Josh Simmons. In case Chris Godwin leaves, Ekbuka will be a good option. Emeka Ekbuka. But I think it really depends on what happens with Chris Godwin, in my opinion. So we're going to end up giving them Donovan Izuriaku, like I said, there. Broncos at 20. Big combine riser, and one of my favorite receivers, and my favorite receiver in this class, Hook'em Horns, is Matthew Golden. Ran the fastest 40 for a wide receiver, which shocked me, honestly. But there's just so much upside with him. He's relatively young. He really had his breakout this year, but he was supposed to come back for another year, and he didn't. I don't know why he didn't come back. I would love to see him in a Texas uniform again. But he's a first-round prospect now. He solidified himself as a first-round prospect. And I think he's going to go with the Broncos here and pair him up with Bo Nix. He's really a quarterback's best friend. I compare him to T. Higgins. I think that's a good comparison for him. So we're going to give him Matthew Golden. Also, on the lower side, Rashad Bateman, he reminds me of. But I think Rashad Bateman's great also. It's not like a shade at Rashad Bateman. I think you're going to get a bona fide good receiver in Matthew Golden. The Pittsburgh Steelers, shout out Thomas, are at pick 21, and they need maybe an upgrade anywhere. He likes to say they need interior defensive line. I don't think so, really. And by he, I mean my friend Thomas. But receiver they could benefit from, and getting a real outside guy like Luther Burden, who plays on the inside and outside, could help them a lot. But you know what helped them? If they took Jalen Milroe. No, I'm joking. I'm just joking. Jalen Milroe is not going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, unless it's in like the 4th round. There's a lot of places they can go, though. Any corner maybe would be nice. Amari and Hampton, I get seen mocked a lot. Depends if Najee Harris leaves, but we don't know. For right now, for free agency, we're assuming that everyone who is on their current team is still there. Just so we know. Unless it's obvious they are leaving, we are assuming everyone is on their current team is still there. So we're not going to be like, oh, if this guy leaves, they're going to take this guy. No, we're not doing that. So the best place for them to go is receiver, and I think it's going to be Luther Burden, because they don't need another slot, because they have a nice quick slot like Calvin Austin, and Luther Burden is Calvin Austin if he was better and can play on the outside. Luther Burden has great ball skills and just great route runner. Had a little bit of a down year this year, but Luther Burden just an elite prospect, and if you get a quarterback who's not Brady Cook, who's trash, is going to have a great year. So the Steelers take Luther Burden here at 21, followed by a pick 22, where this is another receiver area. So we're going to give the Chargers Emeka Egbuka. Actually, no. Sorry. Tyler Warren is going to be the pick here for the Chargers. Great run blocker. Runs the ball hard. That's why he wears 44. And Jim Harbaugh loves those type of guys. So Tyler Warren, this is the perfect spot for him to be, honestly. I think this is his best case scenario if he goes to the Chiefs. Or not the Chiefs, sorry, the Chargers. And I would honestly really like to see Tyler Warren on the Chargers. I think he would be a monster on that team. Just the way you could scheme him, blocking, getting open. I think if he's on the Colts, he's going to struggle a lot, which I had mocked you last time. But on the Chargers, it's just a dream come true situation. Green Bay Packers at 23. They are rumored right now to let go of Jair Alexander. And I know that I just said we're going to pretend like that they're not going to do that. But they need some cornerback help. And there's also not that many cornerbacks available. In my opinion, Maxwell Hairston is the best one available right now. So why don't we look somewhere else? And that is the wide receiver room. And this is where I think Emeka Egbuka is going to end up going. Great slot option. Will get the job done. He could even be physical. He could also maybe play on the outside, although he's mostly a slot guy. He only played 70 wide snaps. So we're going to give Emeka Egbuka here. And the Vikings are now on the clock. And Malachi Starks falls into your lap here as a replacement for Harrison Smith if he decides to retire. But it's just overall like a fantastic player. We're going to get Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks reminds me kind of a more physical Jesse Bates. Not as good as Jesse Bates. I don't think he'll end up being as good as him. But in terms of just like that archetype of a player, and if you could add that to a defense, it's going to do wonders. Next up, we have the Houston Texans, and I think this is a good spot for Josh Simmons, who could play tackle or guard. Just a fantastic player, one of my top 12 players in this class around. Josh Simmons is going to be a great NFL player, very physical, and can play anywhere on the offensive line. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams, and I believe this is a good spot for Kelvin Banks Jr. You slide him into tackle to play right tackle for you, and he'll be great. And then he can also play guard if need be. So Kelvin Banks Jr. I think is a great pick for the Rams to protect Matthew Stafford, to run block for Williams out there. Just an overall good pick. So this class has not really gone the way of the Baltimore Ravens. You have like Gray Zabel or Josh Connerly. Well, there's really like not any top tier guys who have fallen to you, except Maxwell Harrison, who we're going to have selected here. This year really proved how valuable it is to have a good nickel, And I believe Maxwell Harrison is going to be an elite nickel, and I comp him to a faster Drew Phillips, who was very high on last year, and similarly, they both went to Kentucky. So I think the Ravens are going to take Maxwell Harrison with their pick and solidify that defense. The Detroit Lions at pick 28, there's a lot of ways they could go. They're probably going to end up going best player available for them. And Jalen Walker, I forgot about Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker has fallen all the way down here, somewhat to my mistake of just PFF ranks him way too low than I think he's going to end up going. But we've had a crazy draft so far where Jalen Walker just hasn't went. Maybe he could have went 19th to the Bucks, but we're going to go with Jalen Walker here to the Lions, which, if this ends up happening, would be a ridiculous steal of a pick. Jalen Walker is very elite and athletically gifted on the outside. Reminds me a lot of Trayvon Walker. So we're going to give them Jalen Walker on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson once he comes back healthy, and that'll be an elite pass rush duo. Next up, the Commanders here. They could use a tight end. They could also use a lot of positions. I think they're a pretty good team overall. A lot of places where you could just simply upgrade. But I think this is the perfect team where there's going to be a best player available. And that to me is Colson Loveland out of Michigan. Get Jalen Daniels. Jane Daniels a good connection on your tight end position because Zach Ertz isn't going to be there forever. Buffalo Bills at 30. Last time I had them taking the cornerback out of Ole Miss. Let's see. Based on how this has fallen, I think this is a good place for who? Demetrius Knight is a good player, middle linebacker. But I don't know. This is a very complicated pick for the Bills. We're going to have them... What cornerbacks are available? Is it still just Trey Amos? We'll switch it up. We're going to have them go with Azir Thomas. A good man-to-man corner. Physical and just a very sneaky good cornerback. Slides past a lot of people's radars. So is Azir Thomas going to go to the Bills. Chiefs at pick 31. They're probably going to need some offensive linemen. And Gray Zabel could easily patch those holes. He can play anywhere. He's lined up at right tackle, and left guard, and right guard. Anywhere but center. And I think that is where the Chiefs need. So we're going to go with Gray Zabel here. And finally, the Eagles. The Eagles need edge. And honestly, I don't really think they need edge. I think they're going to need interior defensive line because a lot of the guys are going to leave, and they love that pass rotation. I think their Milton Williams is going to leave them. I know I'm saying that unless it's obvious, Milton Williams is obviously leaving. So Kenneth Grant here is just a perfect plug-and-place fill for Milton Williams. So that is how the post-combine mock draft has went. We're going to try to do this weekly to keep up with the trends and try to switch it up. So our big switch up was Jaxon Dart at 6. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys soon with another episode of Being Minecraft. Peace.